We are live. What's going on, Kalisha? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Elevate Expert Talks, where we are going to talk about real strategies to grow your business, scale your bank account, and your money. And today we're going to cover one of the biggest questions in real estate, and that is how to use private money, other people's money, to scale your business. So today we have an absolute magnet. She crushes it in the private money lending space, and that's Kalisha Carter. She is the founder of KC Capital Group. She has a huge community across the country, and she has raised over $8 million in private money over the last few years. So super excited to have you, Kalisha. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you for having me. Can I set the record? Like, I feel very special because I'm also the first guest. So
That's
it's
right.
a lot of pressure, but gotta set the bar. But it's gonna be amazing. I'm so grateful that you thought of me to be on your show. So I'm excited to share as much as I can to your audience.
Let's do it. We're going to learn a lot today. So biggest question, how do we use private money to scale your business? My goal at the end of this video is you feeling confident, us breaking limited mindset beliefs around you scaling with other people's money and how you can use that to go forward. So like to kick it off, Kalisha, if you could give us a little bit of background about yourself, where you've come from and how you got started.
Man, that's always a really good question. And every time I share my story, it's a full reminder to remember where I came from, because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we are always chasing the goal or the next big thing that we forget to appreciate where we came from. Born and raised in Jamaica, did not currently I'm doing finance, but I had no background in finance before that. I did marketing back home. I kind of gave up, not kind of, I did give up my perfect corporate job in Jamaica. I left that and I moved to the US to work in the restaurant industry. Started off as a hostess, which for me, that was a complete culture shock. I didn't know what that was. Had no intention of doing real estate, but I think a year or 2 years in working in the restaurant industry, I was surrounded by people who would visit Martha's Vineyard, who was doing real estate, and they would tell me what they're doing. And I remember seeing persons taking their family on vacation. I was like, man, I can't wait until I'm able to visit these nice places and enjoy summer, right? And take care of my family. And I would just ask them, like, what is it that you did? And some person would tell me, majority of them would tell me that they built their wealth through real estate. And of course, I've growing up hearing that, it sounded impossible from my background. Like, if you were not born into real estate, this is impossible. So I would only dream that that would happen, right? But fast forward, I kind of got to a point in year 2 at the restaurant industry, and I was like, you know what? I need to figure out what I need to do with my life. And I remember I love watching HGTV, honestly. And I decided from there, you know what? I'm going to research this thing called real estate. And from there, I kind of went on Google and I put in how to invest in real estate in the US. And that's how I kind of went down a rabbit hole and started learning about investing in different markets and so forth. Again, all new to me as well. Fast forward, after I got into real estate, I kind of hit a roadblock where I could not get a loan traditionally, because even though I looked really good on paper, when I say I look good on paper, I had the perfect credit score, I was making really good money, but I could not get a loan from the bank since I was not a US citizen. And that was an issue as well. So with that drawback, I was like, you know what? I'm not the only person who got into real estate with this situation, right? And kind of continued to connect with people and found out that there are creative ways to structure deals. And with me sharing store my experience with friends and family, I got my first private money, and I had no clue that was private money. So it was a total of $50,000. Had no clue what I was doing. Nothing. Didn't know the right paperwork to use as well. Literally went on Google because someone told me something called a promissory note. Found a template on Google and used that. And I was like, you know what? I've finally heard about this OPM, using other people's money. But for me, I was like, if I'm going to continue to do this, I need to learn what it means to use private money, how to properly explain that. And I did. I invested in my education. And because I laid that groundwork and foundation, it's the reason why I'm where I'm at today.
That's awesome. I think you bring up a really great point. You first came here and you're like, all right, what am I going to do? And you went from like this one little seed happening to being all in on real estate. And a lot of people can relate to that moment. And they're like, hey, I have to figure this out. And I know a lot of people wish they want to walk into the 50,000 and have that Google promissory note. So that's awesome. And really, I want to hit on two things. There's two people watching this right now. The one person has maybe not done their first deal, or they've done just a few. And then there's another part of the audience that is sitting here watching this, and they've done dozens of deals and dozens of flips, and they've used private money before. So I want to hit a couple things for both audiences. Yeah. First thing though, in that first group, if you're not currently using private money, what would you say? And I know you kind of walked into it, but what would you say the number one most limiting belief or lesson you have to unlearn to start being able to use other people's money in your business?
The first thing, and I think this can actually go for both parties, whether you're new or experienced, is that we tend to think, I don't know anyone with money. But the reality of it is you are surrounded by people who have capital that can lend you money, right? But most persons don't even know that the capital that they're sitting on can invest, because traditionally we think that in order for you to start, you need 300,000, 500,000 to start. Some people have 50,000 in their personal saving. They have another 50,000 in their self-directed IRA that they can combine. So the number one thing is thinking that I don't know anyone with money. That's a lie. People just will not be walking around with, like you have that cardboard box with like persons who are seeking help. No one is going to walk around and say, I have money, who wants it? That's the reality of it. So we have to tell people, what is it that we're doing in real estate? It could be something simple as, hey, if someone asks, what do you do? Hey, so I basically flip projects. I buy properties, I renovate them and then sell them. I'm always looking for partners, anyone who have the capital that they can partner with me on it. It's simple things like that. You are planting the seeds. So people are surrounded around you with capital. So that can go both ways. Another thing I would say would be a limiting belief is thinking that, I think there's always this little thing. I thinking like, I don't want to ask people for money.
Totally.
That's the first thing. I don't want to run people down for money, or no one will trust me with money. But this is something that I've seen. If you have a deal and you believe in your numbers and you're confident in your numbers, you will find the right investor. And any person who have capital will see that this is a good opportunity, because at the end of the day, we all hear it all the time. You are providing an opportunity. And if you can confidently share with that person, hey, this opportunity that I have, this is what I need your money for, and this is how you're going to get it out. Any person who like common sense, and I'm going to say common sense, who have capital would say, you know what, I understand what you're doing and I see how I'm going to get my money out. I'll give you that money. But to kind of recap, it's always, I don't know anyone with money, or thinking that I don't want to ask people for money as well. But people are around you with capital. Like you just never know. Like you, Anthony, you could have someone from college or a previous corporate job who's sitting on 100K, but they don't even know that you're doing real estate. They may see the thing, right? But they don't see how you guys can partner because you're not having that conversation with them.
100%. No, those are great points. And actually, yeah, you're spot on. One of the first, he's probably watching now, the first person I ever had private money with was a college guy. So college person I knew from a long time ago. Great. And there's a lot of ways we can dive into it deeper to put your name out there so that people actually reach out to you. But I think a good question that we can lead from this is, do you think that people should use a lot of people feel like they can't ask family. So they can't go to family or friends. What do you think? What's the move? Do they go to social networking events, find the deal first, and then find the money? Do they find the money, then the deal? And then do they go friends, family, or social events first?
I would say both. Here's why. Because people always tell you like, don't go to friends and family because you don't want to miss business and all that stuff. I don't believe that, right? You have two groups of people, friends and family. You're going to networking events. Do both. At the end of the day, It's whoever give you that money first. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. So if you need 100,000 right now, you're gonna go to every single person within your network because everyone could be a potential investor, and you don't want to limit yourself. You're gonna treat a friend and family the same way you're gonna treat an investor. The right paperwork. So if you go in with that mindset, you'll be good. But I recommend doing both, right? Now, sometimes, right, you will have friends and family who doubt you, or they don't want to, they have the money, they don't want to give you. It's not that they don't believe in your vision, but they want to see proof of concept.
Right.
They want to see you do it first with somebody else. And then when you do, they will come around. Trust me. Most times they will come around and say, hey, I've been seeing you, you've been doing your thing. You know what? I'm ready.
100%. And so for the person that's looking for money right now, or they've done a ton of deals and they want to find a new investor, what are private investors looking for? What do they want to see in the operator and the person to do the deal?
The main thing is that what I used to think that it's the deal that an investor is going to say yes to. That was how I felt at the beginning. But I later learned that people are going to decide if they like you or not. Do I like you?
Yep.
Do I trust this person with my money, hard-earned money? And that could simply mean how you communicate. That could mean how you show up on social media or any previous engagement that you had with them before. Do I like this person? Does this person going to do what they say that they're going to do? That's the first thing. Do we share the same values? The second thing is that it comes down to the deal. Do I believe in this deal? Does the operator has a clear path to show me how am I going to get my money out? Do they have a plan if things go south? So even for us now, even me raising capital, most of the time, if I'm talking to a new investor, I want them to get to know me.
Yep.
And I want to get to know them because I want to see if our goals align. And then from there, in us getting to know each other, you will see how the conversation transition into the deal. So persons want to see if they trust you first. So a lot of times we talk to somebody and the first thing, the conversation, like, oh my God, I have a great opportunity. I heard you're a lender. I need 100,000. We just go right to it. A complete stranger. Do you think that person is going to say, yes, here's 100,000? I mean, 1% of persons, if they're just in the business transaction and that's it, you will find those persons. But a lot of private investors, they're going to tell you, slow down. Tell me about you. Tell me about your experience. How many deals have you done? How many deals went south? Like I've been having a lot of conversation with new investors recently, and they want to hear about all my bad deals.
Yep.
That's all they want to hear about. And if you're completely new, they just want to see, what have you been doing to learn to get to where you're at? Why should I believe in you for your first one?
They want to know the downside, and that if there was something that went wrong, like what happens then? How are you going to make sure this turns around? So
exactly.
I think one great thing here we can even say, and I can say for maybe somebody that's looking for money, is like, if you have that mindset around, if something went wrong, is my private investor, are they taking the loss, or am I going to make sure that they get their money back? Yeah. So I think that's really important. So I think if you approach anybody you're working with that mindset, maybe they don't know for sure, but you give off that kind of energy to that person that you're working with, that, hey, you can actually trust what we're doing here, and this is a great deal. So no, I love that. Should investors, private investors, would you consider them a private investor if they are also part of they're operating the deal as well? Should a person do that?
No. So let me even clarify, because I don't want anyone to come for me here. So I think if you are the person with the capital, you need to figure out, do I want to come in as a lender or do I want to come in as a partner? Yep. That's very crucial. If you want to go on the operating agreement, that means an operating agreement means you're now a part of the LLC. That means you are a partner. You're carrying the same risk as the person who is doing the day-to-day, underground, all those things. You're carrying the same risk. So if the project flops, you lose your money. It's an investment, right? If it makes money and a profit, you profit from that. Win-win. Hoorah, right? But if you are a lender, you don't want nothing to do with the operation. The day-to-day, you're just like, listen, here's my money. I want a return on my money. I'm loaning you this money. If this project fails, you are liable to give my money. then you are operating as a lender. And then, of course, the paperwork will be completely different. So I think a lot of persons always want to do both. So you have to figure out what is it that I want to do. And then I've seen where the person who wants to go on the operating agreement as the person with the capital, they don't have the time to commit to the day to day, or
Right.
they don't have no experience in real estate. Why do you want to give approval with certain things with the operations, right? You know deep down, I just want to invest passively. Why would you go on the operating agreement? Just offer debt in and out, and it's super clear to both parties what
What
role everyone is playing. Exactly.
That's how a great deal gets done. Everybody knows what they're doing. Yeah, absolutely. It's when that mesh, that mix comes, that's where the challenges arise. So, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the biggest things, like we've talked about, I think it's, you mentioned being a connector and not just a borrower or a lender. Like, can you break down what that means and how you kind of got there?
Okay. So a connector is anyone who has a need. I'm that middle person. And if someone needs something, they know that if I reach out to Kalisha, she has someone in her network that can help me. That's the main thing. You're like the plug for resources. I may not have everything right now, like me, but I know someone in my network that can get it done. With me, this is how I even started my lending business. I was a connector, meaning I'm an investor. I started off as an investor myself with raising capital for my projects. What happened was that it got to a point where I had more capital than deals. And that's a person will be like, I would love to have that problem.
No problem.
So I had more capital than deals. So what I did was I would reach out to persons within my private network and I would say, hey, I have this investor. They have X amount of money. Do you have a deal? Right? They would have a deal and I would make that introduction. Again, I am connecting. I'm connecting the person with the capital and the person with the deal together. That's all I'm doing. That's a connector. But for me, it was this person with the capital trusts me. So let's say you are the borrower in my network, Anthony, right? My investor, they don't know who you are. They're investing on the basis that Kalisha knows this person. She's introducing me to this person, which means she trusts this person. So I'm going to go off Kalisha's word. So,
Right.
and because of that, I want to make sure that this investor with the capital, they understand what their money will be used for. They understand the deal. They understand how they will get their money out. They understand who you are, your experience as an operator. And most of the time, that investor doesn't know anything about real estate. So, in doing that for multiple people, I decided to start an entire business surrounding that because I realized you really have good operators and these are good investors, persons who are running the day to day. They love doing that, but they do not have time to go and find private investors because that's a whole job in itself to go
Yep.
out there all the time, build relationships. So that's the main thing as a connector. That's what I'm mainly focused on right now. So I'm like the connector in the middle. You have a need, I need money, I go find you the money.
Awesome. Awesome. No, I like that. Okay. Sounds good. And then I think a big question we can answer right now, markets shifted a lot in the last, market question here. So you're seeing private money lended all the time. There's numbers with that. Where were those numbers at, rates and points and things like that before, maybe previous to the last 6 months or even year? And where's that at now? And then follow up to that is, what should people be looking for if they're getting private money for a deal right now? Like what would you say a reasonable rate would be?
I would say, that's always a good question. And persons will come to me a lot of times and they're like, hey, if I borrow this money, what the rate? That's not the question I should be asking. The question is, how much can your deal afford to pay? Because you have to understand that deal first to see what is your spread, what's your profit margin, and from there, how much can I pay in interest? How much money do I need, and how much am I willing to pay to that investor? Now, taking into consideration, and I'm going to use this as a Florida, for example, if you're lending, there's something in Florida for anyone loaning money called the usury law. And I'm not giving you guys legal advice, just use this
What is
as a usury law. That's oh my God.
Usury.
USURY, usury law. And in Florida, it's a lender cannot charge more than 18% annualized rate for the entire year on any loan. So use that as your max number. You can start as low as 8%. You can start as low as 10%. It's what can your deal offer to that investor. That's the main thing.
Give us a range, Felicia. Give us a general range. Maybe that's a good.
I'm still going to give you 8 to 12% because let me even continue to go very technical. Why? I don't want to give you guys a set number and think that's standard. If your investor is coming in, let's say project on 1, 2, 3 costs 200,000 for the purchase and the rehab, 200,000. You have one investor coming in with the full 200,000, then you can give them the standard rate of 11%, 12% annualized for the entire year for a 12-month loan. That's pretty standard. But let's say one investor for that 200,000, one investor is coming in with 150. Remember, the project is 200,000. One investor is coming in 150. You still need another 50,000, right? Because now with that $50,000, that investor will now be in second lien position, which means it's a little bit more riskier, which also means if the deal goes south, the person with the 150 gets paid out first. And you with the 50, if there's no more money left, you're going to lose that $50,000. So some person going in with that 50 will charge a higher interest rate without passing the user law to say, hey, I'm going to cap you at 18% because I'm carrying a higher risk. And there's a high chance that I may not lose that money. Now, some persons, depending on the loan amount, and if they've never worked with you before, they will say, you know what, instead of you waiting until the end of the 12 months to pay me my principal and my interest back, let's set up a monthly. You got to pay me monthly. So at least I'm still getting something up until, instead of waiting until the full 12 months. So it comes down to one, what can your deal offer? Because I've seen persons who, because they need $200,000 in 2 days, they offer 30, 40%. I'm like, are you insane? And then when you underwrite it, the deal can't even pay the interest. Like, where is that money coming from to pay the interest? So figure out how much can that deal pay, and then also just have an open conversation. That's really what it comes down to, right? If this investor, if that person has the capital and how long they're willing to give you for, make it worthwhile for that person so that when you pay them back, they'll be like, you know what? I invested with Anthony. I made a good return on my money. I want to reinvest with Anthony. That's the main thing. Like sometimes I overpay investors and that just kept them coming back. Why? Because they're willing to invest longer with me and give me more money as well. So have a conversation what that person wants out of it and see if that works for you. That's what it comes down to.
Nice. What's one thing that when you first got started with private money that you wish somebody would have told you that you didn't hear and you had to figure out for yourself? One lesson.
Set the expectation that things will go south.
Okay.
I think
That's big.
A lot of persons glorify that. Oh my God, I raised X amount of money and you can do it too. Yeah. But
so that's the hard part, right? Is because people are ultimately they're trying to raise money. So they can't, you can't just say that the deal is going to be bad, but you have to also put the risks on the table. So I think there's a happy medium with that of like just putting everything out there and being completely transparent of like, this is the upside. This is what we're going for. This is what we want, the goal. And then, hey, this is the downside. This is the risks for the deal.
And even you borrowing the money, have that 1% chance within yourself that there's a 1% chance this deal is going to go south.
Right.
And I will have to have a tough conversation.
Yeah. If you're finding private money right now, you're somebody that's looking for money and you are talking to investors, they will appreciate transparency far more than you leaving that off the table. Actually, in fact, they're going to know that you understand the business model if you disclose the risks. They're going to trust you more. So I would highly, that's a must. Yeah. So put it all on the table. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, you gotta be transparent with that 100%.
For sure. Awesome. So if someone is right now, they're tired of using credit cards. They don't want to use their own cash. They don't want to do any of that. What would be the best step for them to go find private money or get plugged in with you or go find private money right now? They're tired of using credit cards. They don't want to use cash, their own cash.
The first thing, if is that before you plug in with me and you want to go tell something like you need, let's say you need 100,000. One, reach out to persons within your network. That could be friends, that could be family. Maybe you're part of different professional groups, real estate groups. Make a post. Hey guys, I have this project and I need X amount of money. To anyone know anyone, right? It could be you making a post on social media to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I currently have a project I'm looking to buy. If there's anyone interested, reach out. That's a second thing. If you also use this hand in hand, you also reach out to myself. And if you have a deal, you can submit it to GAP to close. So that's GAP, the number 2, close.com. Submit it to us. If it matches our lending criteria and we see that there's a way for investors to get their money out, then we will go out there and give you that capital as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I think those will be the two things.
And follow up to that, what one student, one person, one investor, they've moved from their own money, their credit cards, things like that to pay for rehabs and buy. What's a success story? What have you seen for a student or anybody investor that stopped using their own stuff to started funding? How has that changed their business?
I can give you multiple examples. So I'm going to use one where this investor was using their own capital to fund their rehab projects, and they were doing multiple projects at once. So what they did, they came to me for private money, and they used their capital as leverage or operational stuff just in case things go south. So they still manage the project. So just in case like anything goes south, they still have their money to fall back on. I've known investors who also use institutional money. They also use a business line of credit to do their rehab. And then they come in with a private loan to pay off that line of credit that they have as well. I've seen persons who, I give the business line of credit. I've seen persons, I give the personal save, the leverage cash. But one thing I think those were the two common things. But one thing I want to share, we glorify using private money, but you have to remember is that if you're thinking of borrowing money, you have a plan to pay back all the time, because that is always the main thing. So even if you're using a line of credit, have a plan. If I use this money, how do I pay back? If I use private money to fund a rehab and a deal goes out, do I have some form of leverage or other capital to pay it back? Or can that deal pay it back? If you are clear on that, you can always borrow private money, because a lot of people will take on so much debt and borrow people's capital, and then they're over leveraged and deals go south and you can't even pay back any of your investors.
Right. Worst case
scenario. Yeah. Okay. Worst case scenario, but you can get very creative with private money.
And so for all of the people watching, and they're watching because they're either on track to raise a lot of money or they're already raising a lot of money and doing dozens of deals, what would you say that they're eventually going to raise that private money? And we know they are. What is the number one thing they can do after they raise that money, after the deal's done, to keep that investor coming back, besides paying very high rates and things like that?
Everything that you promised at the beginning to get that money, execute it. Everything that you promise, execute it. If you mentioned communicate, that is extremely important. Communicate. People, I think it's just a human thing where if you need the money by Friday and you talk to an investor, you're going to follow up. Hey, have you made a decision? Hey, did you send the money? Hey, I sent you the paper. We're on our game. But the moment you get that money, the silence, right?
That's
right? So communicate, let your investor know what's going on with the project. If there's any delay, communicate. Hey, I'm foreseeing a delay. Hey, I know this loan is due in a month. There might be a delay because something happened to my contractor or permits got delayed. We might be a month out.
Yep.
We got to communicate all of that, because that makes a difference to your investor as well. And that makes them want to reinvest with you.
Do investors want a weekly update, a monthly update, an update whenever they're done? Or is it, you know your investor, you know what they want, you find out from them?
So I always say, what do you want?
Right. 100%.
It's not about what the investor wants. What works for you? You are doing the day to day. If you know you can't do a weekly update, don't promise it. If someone asks for it, tell them no. Here's why I can't do a weekly update. I'm in the field every day. The most I'll do, I make it a priority and give you an update every month. For me and my team and my investors, you're required to give us a monthly update. And we communicate that to the investor. If we foresee delays, right, then we move to every 2 weeks just for updates as well. If the loan is extended and it's past the due date, hey, we need an update every week. What is happening? That time it's more serious. But I have investors who ask for a weekly update and I tell them no.
Yeah. Some investors don't want to hear from you for the whole deal until it's done.
I've had investors who tell me like,
yeah,
they're like, can you stop? And I was like, stop what? Can your team stop reaching out? And I'm like, why? They're like, Kalisha, like, I just want my money back in that time. And I was like, okay, but the email is there. If you ever want to see what's happening, the drive is there. Everything about the project you can see. They're like, it's okay. I don't need you and your team to be nagging me. So again, going back to having that conversation with your investor. What do they want? Set the expectations up front.
100%. Couple rapid questions here. Number one most underrated skill an investor could have, or the most important skill an investor could have?
I'm going to be completely biased with this, but any skill an investor could have right now is sales and capital raising. They go hand in hand, because if you can do sales and capital raising, you can do anything. Because everyone will always need money, and you need to be able to persuade someone to buy or invest in whatever it is that you have.
You have to talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Market's crazy right now. What's your favorite city to invest in? Where do you see most guys going?
I prefer, crazy or not, Oregon and Indianapolis. I used to love Florida, but with everything that's been happening, that's been tough. So I love doing deals in Oregon and in Indiana.
Okay. So if you're listening, don't go there. She wants that market.
I love that market so much. I mean, you have still have good deals in Florida, but just how the market is going, it's like transition. Yeah, it's becoming way harder.
We're back to nationwide. So we're 5 different markets. So yeah, we totally, hurricanes changed a little bit, market shifted. So awesome. Kalisha, I think that wraps most of it up. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I would say thank you for having me, and I hope that your audience found value in this as well. If you guys have follow-up questions, you can always find me on socials. That's my handle on Instagram and LinkedIn, on Facebook. I have a ton of content as well on YouTube about capital raising, bad deals that I've gone through, my conversation with investors as well. There's a ton of content there, but I'm happy that you chose me to be the first one, and I'm so excited to see how much this show grows.
Love it. If you need capital or you want to get a return, message Kalisha.
There you go.
Will take care of you. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kalisha.
Awesome. Thank you, and bye.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye.